So if you're an ally of the West, you get to kill kids?
No. You get
so why is it relevant?
You support.
You're making my point for me, Piers. I'm consistent. I don't care whether you're an ally of the West or an enemy of the West.
Fine.
I care about what you do.
Yes.
And Russia and Israel both committing war crimes, both saying genocidal.
Yes. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this conversation between Piers Morgan and Mehdi Hasan got intense. And I mean the kind of intense where you can feel the entire framework of an argument collapse in real time. They're going back and forth on the situation in the Middle East. And at one point, Piers accidentally says something that completely exposes his bias. He mentions that one side is an ally of the West, as if that somehow justifies different standards. Mehdi catches it immediately and doesn't let go. What follows is one of those rare moments where someone gets called out on a double standard so clearly that there's nowhere left to hide. You're going to want to stick around for this one because the way this unfolds is absolutely wild. And before we jump in, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from right now. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in. All right, let's get into it.
They have a charter which says they want to eradicate Israel. You have to defend yourself. So the question then becomes, what type of defense or response or reaction or revenge, whatever you want to call it, I don't want to get caught in the semantics of a word, but what kind of thing can Israel do, given that direct threat to them, to their existence? And the same sort of ideology applies in argument to Hamas. But with Hezbollah specifically, this state within a state in Lebanon, which is far better armed, far more powerful, far more resourced.
Far more popular with the people, part of the government. It's much more part of Lebanese society.
And was created by 1,500 members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
Supported, not created, but yes.
Well, they trained.
I mean, they're also indigenous to Lebanon.
They trained.
They're not a foreign force.
So my point is, what can Israel do that would actually tick your box of being justified?
My box is a very minimum box. My box is Hippocratic. Do no harm, don't kill civilians. So
you don't respond?
No. You don't respond. This is the same argument with Gaza. You don't respond by killing 40,000 people.
What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do if you're Israel?
Target Hezbollah people.
How?
I don't know. Jonathan Conricus came on your show last week.
They couldn't have been
IDF colonel. He said they're not in civilian areas, so we're able to target them. Okay, target them. Then if you want to target them, under the rules of war, you can target combatants. But Piers, hold on. You just said earlier, let me finish my point, then you come back in.
No, Mehdi.
Go on, then I'm going to finish my point.
You literally just said you can target combatants.
Yes.
But when they did that last week with the walkie-talkies and pages, you said, no, that's a terror attack, it's illegal.
Hold on.
Couldn't there have been a more precise targeting of combatants?
Hold on, because A, they didn't just target combatants, as we've just discussed. B, they did it in civilian areas. And C, they did it in violation of the amended Protocol 2 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, which doesn't allow booby traps.
So there is no...
I already explained the booby traps.
Actually, no, that's not true. It's not true.
Okay.
Booby traps are not allowed if they are genuinely indiscriminate in the way that they potentially...
You don't think going off in a grocery store is indiscriminate?
No, actually, I believe what I've seen...
You gave the British example earlier, Piers. Are you okay with someone blowing you up in Sainsbury's, the guy next to you, blowing you up in the aisle of Sainsbury's?
I believe that what has been reported, right, widely reported, is that 3,000 terrorist militants, Hezbollah members, whatever you want to call them, were very precisely targeted.
Are you saying people
by your criteria?
Did they go off in grocery stores and hospitals?
If it's legal,
Piers, did they go off in grocery stores and hospitals?
Hang on.
No, you brought up the UK earlier. We're in London right now. If I go from here to the local Sainsbury's to pick up some chocolate on the way out of the studio, and a terrorist is targeted next to me and they blow it up in Sainsbury's and I lose my eyes, you're saying that's okay?
No, but if you have
Sounds like you're saying it's okay.
If those people in that grocery store are literally responsible for firing rocket after rocket at
You're okay with them being blown up with me? I'm just collateral damage.
I actually looked at what they did and I thought it was a very precisely targeted
What about the 500? What about the 500 civilians killed on Monday, which you just don't want to talk about today?
I'm going to come to that.
You keep saying that. The time's nearly up. 500 people.
The time is not nearly up.
Well,
we'll be talking for literally 15 minutes.
Stop
racing the clock down.
I have another show to do, Piers.
Hang on.
500 people died on Monday.
I've come in early for you.
500.
I was looking for a thank you, Piers.
Thank you, Piers. 500 people were killed on Monday.
You're
not talking about that. I would say it sounds like you're justifying that.
I am going to talk about that.
I've not justified October 7th.
First of all, before we get to that, I just want to get inside your head about what you think is legitimate, because you said a very interesting thing. One, what they did was a terror attack, even though they would say they targeted specifically combatants, and that is lawful.
But that's not true, though. We know that's not true.
Well, it is true.
It's not true.
It is true. You can never...
Kids, doctors, nurses.
No, you can never target combatants and not involve civilians ever.
That's funny because Israel were bragging, well, people on behalf of Israel.
Tell me one war
without Ismail Haniyeh without collateral damage.
Tell me one.
Hold on, didn't they kill Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran without collateral damage?
Tell me one war where that's happened.
You just interrupted me twice. Ismail Haniyeh was killed in Tehran. There was no collateral damage.
Okay, so this is where the entire framing falls apart. When Piers Morgan asks Mehdi Hasan, what kind of thing can a country do when it's under threat, he's trying to lock Mehdi into defending actions that are clearly over the line. But watch what Mehdi does. He doesn't take the bait. He says his standard is simple. Don't harm, don't end civilians. And that's the entire point the media keeps missing. The second Mehdi brings up 500 people being terminated in one day, Piers immediately tries to shift back to charters and ideology. But here's what matters. Those 500 weren't combatants. The majority were civilians. And when you're justifying that level of destruction by saying, well, they're under threat, you're essentially saying some civilian lives matter less than others. That's not defense. That's collective punishment. And then Piers makes this argument about collateral damage being inevitable in every conflict. Okay, fine. But there's a difference between unavoidable collateral damage and leveling entire neighborhoods. When Mehdi points out you can never target combatants without involving civilians, Piers tries to flip it like that proves his point. But it actually proves Mehdi's, which is that military solutions in densely populated areas always result in mass civilian casualties. So maybe the solution isn't more military action. What really gets me is how Piers keeps asking, what would you do? Like the only options are total warfare or doing nothing. But Mehdi's been saying from the beginning, address the root cause, end the occupation, stop the illegal settlements, give people their rights. But that option never seems to make it into the conversation because it requires acknowledging decades of policy failures.
No, I don't agree with that killing,
All right.
but there was no collateral
But to be
damage.
clear, you think that the targeting of combatants is legitimate.
If you're in a war,
Okay.
and they are fighting with you, and they are fighters, yeah, of course it's legitimate.
But you also think that when Israel targeted combatants from Hezbollah last week,
Because I don't
in a
accept
very
the premise
precise
of your-
way,
I don't accept the
it's
premise.
terrorism.
Yeah, I don't.
How
well,
can it be both?
Hold on. Leon Panetta says it's terrorism, the former head of the CIA,
So?
not just me. Well, you act like it's some crazy extreme view. If the head of the
didn't say that.
CIA, the former head of the CIA is saying this is terrorism because it's
Oh, I want you
not
to
done.
explain what is. So, give me an example.
It's
of
literally
where,
terror.
Of where
People in Lebanon don't know what
you
devices
think
to use anymore.
You think killing? Well, Hezbollah don't know.
By the way, I'm not playing this game, Piers, because I'm not here to talk about the rules of war. My position is, even if it's legitimate...
You just
don't-
talked about them.
No, because I'm saying even if it's legitimate, even if I accepted the 3,000 is legitimate, which I don't,
Yeah.
I still don't think they should do it.
But
Because
you
all-
said
hold on,
targeting.
Can I finish a sentence?
You said targeting militants,
Yes.
combatants, is lawful and justified.
Yes, but even then I don't think you should do it.
Okay.
You know what? Can I finish a sentence?
I think there's an inconsistency there.
No, I'm very consistent. I'm saying even if it's legitimate, which in this case it's not legitimate, let's say I take the saying it's legitimate, you still shouldn't do it because all it leads to is escalation. I don't want escalation in the Middle East. I don't want a regional war that America
Right.
dragged into. I'm saying that the way of the gun, the military solution to everything, is a failure, whether you think it's moral
So
or
how
immoral.
should Israel respond?
I've told you, with end the occupation. You don't want
Right.
to talk about the occupation, Piers. You don't want to talk about the 500 dead. I'm telling you that's the root cause. Israel wants to do everything except what every smart person is telling them to do. Even members of their own security establishment are telling them to do. End the occupation and then see what happens.
say
Nobody's waking up in the morning saying we want to kill Israel for no reason.
You say, Mehdi, all roads lead to the occupation.
Yes.
Okay? Israel would say all roads lead to Iran.
Who cares what Israel says? They've lied for the last year. They've lied
cares
for
what
30
they
years.
say?
Yeah, do you care what Russia says?
No.
This is what I'm saying. You're inconsistent. The
Israel's
occupier
Israel's
and the
a liberal
invader
democracy.
doesn't... I don't care
It's
what...
not a barbaric
So if you're a liberal
dictatorship.
democracy, first of all, they're not a liberal democracy, and second of all,
Well, they are.
No, they're not. They're an ethnocracy. But even if they were a liberal democracy, you don't get to invade other people's land. That's not an excuse, Piers. You sound like you're justifying an illegal military occupation here.
No, I'm not.
You just did. You said they're a liberal democracy. Sounds like you're justifying occupation.
No, you're extrapolating two things together. Why?
I said it's an occupation. You said, but they're a liberal democracy. Sounds like a justification. for
I'm just
occupation.
coming back to one thing because I'm curious what you think Israel could do that would pass your test.
It's probably not much. I'm as close
Nothing.
I'm as close to a pacifist as
Wow.
you can get.
It's not
I think you only use
Pacifism
force
is not
to
allowing
defend yourself.
everyone else to attack you and to rape and murder and pillage you and to fire rockets all year.
Who's raping? And
You don't
murdering?
think that's what Hamas did in
I
October?
thought we
the
were talking about Hezbollah. You're jumping around.
I'm talking about both.
You were talking about Hezbollah a moment ago.
It's the same. To me, it's the same.
But that's
Israel's
the
come under-
problem. To you, it's the same. Everything's very simplistic.
Let me
The
explain
world
why.
is not simplistic.
Let me explain why. You have two.
Lebanon is way more
To me,
complicated
you
than
have two
Gaza.
groups of terrorists funded by Iran. They both are wedded to the existential removal and disintegration of all things Israel, and they're prepared to use a lot of violence to achieve that.
But not as much violence as Israel has used to occupy their land for 50 years in the case of Gaza and the West Bank.
So your argument is whatever Hamas has done and whatever Hezbollah does is justified.
No. The only person justifying violence here is you, Piers, not me. So I've not justified any violence today. You've justified terrorist attacks via pages. You seem to have justified the occupation. You won't even say occupation.
I do think the specific targeting of Hezbollah in the way that they did it...
Do you think it makes Israel safer?
That's a different question.
Well, that's the question that matters to me.
I think Israel
if
feels...
There's no point doing all this,
and at the
end of the day, the war continues. I want to end the conflict, Piers.
So, of course, maybe this is...
Well, then escalations don't help. Israel is briefing the press, Piers.
Just saying, I want peace and joy. You sound like Kamala Harris.
No, actually, Kamala Harris's funding is...
Here's where Mehdi absolutely dismantles the talking points. When he brings up Leon Panetta, the former head of the intelligence agency, calling these actions acts of terror, Piers tries to brush it off like it's just one opinion. But you don't get to ignore someone with that level of expertise just because it contradicts your narrative. And this is critical. Mehdi isn't saying violence is never justified in self-defense. He's saying when you claim everything is self-defense, you're just giving yourself permission to do whatever you want. The pager operation blew up devices in civilian areas, grocery stores, public spaces. That's not precision. That's creating an environment where nobody feels safe, which is literally the definition of creating terror. But what really exposes the game is when Mehdi says the way of the gun, the military solution to everything, is a failure. Because it is. Look at the last 75 years in that region. Has military force solved anything? Has it brought peace? Has it made anyone safer? No. It's created generation after generation of trauma and retaliation. And yet every time someone says, maybe we should try addressing the underlying issues, they get accused of being naive, or worse. And then when Mehdi says, who cares what the occupying power says? They've lied for the last year. Piers gets defensive about consistency. But that's exactly the point. We do need consistency. We can't say lying is disqualifying when one side does it, but acceptable when our allies do it. Either truth matters or it doesn't. The Kamala Harris line at the end is perfect because it highlights how even progressive politicians in America won't touch this issue with real honesty. They'll fund the same policies while using softer rhetoric. That's not progress, that's PR.
Which bits?
Yeah.
What do you think they have a right to do?
I think that they have been disproportionate in their response
That's very
to Gaza.
vague. What do you think they're allowed to do in Gaza? You made me very specific. What do you think they should specifically do in Gaza?
I think in Gaza that they were the victims on October the 7th.
You've already said that.
I know.
What should they do in Gaza?
So I think they are perfectly entitled to go after Hamas. What they're not entitled to do, in my estimation, is to level the whole of Gaza to the ground in the way they've been doing. Nor can they move vast numbers of Palestinian civilians to specific areas.
Those are war crimes.
And then bomb those areas as well.
And those are war crimes,
So on those,
yes?
on those
And
things
those
we
are war
agree.
crimes, yes?
Probably, yeah.
And what about in Lebanon?
In Lebanon,
They've killed 500 people.
there is, to me, a big difference.
50 children.
I'm about to answer you. I think there is a big difference between what they did in the targeting of the pages and what they did with the airstrikes, which were far more indiscriminate and killed far more civilians.
I mean,
and my question for Netanyahu, if he would dare to do an interview with me, which he now won't, but if he did, I would say, what are you trying to achieve here? Because it seems to me you're just leveling Gaza, killing tens of thousands of people in the process.
Trying to stay in office.
You're never going to finish off Hamas completely. You're certainly not doing anything but, in my view, fueling their ideology. And you have no plan for what happens in Gaza afterwards.
Agreed.
And you have a bunch of right-wing nut jobs in your
We finally
cabinet who actually do speak in quite a genocidal way. All of that I agree
They
with.
are about Lebanon too, by the way. You know that, right? They're speaking about Lebanon in a genocidal way too.
I think there are people there who just want total war with everything to do with Palestinians.
But don't you think someone like you with
Hezbollah.
your huge platform should be calling that out consistently?
I do, but I also
No,
think...
you just gave me a whole thing. Iran backs Hamas, Hezbollah, terrorism. That just sounds like an Israeli narrative.
You take one side completely.
Just like you do in Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm consistent. I take the side of the Ukrainian people under occupation and the Palestinian people under occupation. I'm consistent.
No, you're not. They're totally different situations.
You have to say that because you're not consistent.
And you have to say what you say.
No, but I literally described it. 2 people's under foreign occupation, 2 people's having their hospitals bombed, 2 people's having their kids killed, 2 people facing governments that say genocidal stuff. Yeah, I'm consistent.
One is a democracy and an ally of the
Says
West,
you.
and one is
Oh,
not.
ally of the West. What little slip in there? What's that got to do with anything? So allies of the West get to be genocidal.
No.
Why did you say ally of the West? Why is that relevant?
I don't believe what they're doing in
So if
Gaza.
Russia was an ally of the
No,
West, they could
hang
kill
on.
people in Ukraine.
I don't believe what
Wow.
they're doing in Gaza is genocide. You do, I don't.
Well,
genocide is the complete
Put genocide to one side.
destruction of
Whether we
people.
agree or not on genocide, and it is genocidal.
It's not
You just
genocide.
said they're your ally of the West. Why is that relevant?
I think it's important that you support.
So if you're an
allies.
ally of the West, you get to kill kids.
No, you get support.
Why is it relevant?
You support.
You're making my point for me, Piers. I'm
you
consistent.
support
I don't
your-
care whether you're an
No,
ally
Mehdi,
of the West
Mehdi.
or an enemy of the West.
Fine.
I care about what you do.
Yes.
And Russia and Israel both committing
Yes.
war crimes,
Yes.
both saying genocidal
Yes,
stuff.
but Mehdi, here's my point. You are so blindly anti-Israel that you frame everything.
I could say the same thing to you about Russia.
I'm very blindly against Russia.
Okay,
yes.
then so again, so you're
Are you
inconsistent. I'm exactly. I'm consistent. I'm blindly anti-occupying Russia that occupies Ukraine, and I'm blindly anti an Israel that occupies Gaza. By the way, another area I'm consistent is I do think both wars need to come to an end, and they're going to come to an end through some sort of negotiation. I don't believe in prolonged conflict. I don't know. I'm not a negotiator.
What's
but
the
I don't
negotiation in
believe I don't
Ukraine?
believe there's a military solution to either conflict.
Give me the solution.
I don't have one. Do you have a military solution? I don't think there is one.
We can't possibly give Putin what he's taken.
No, I agree.
So how do you do it?
I don't know, but I don't think the military continuing helps. I mean, how do you win militarily? I don't know how that
Would
works.
you have said that in World War II
What do you mean?
when the Nazis were trying to take over the world?
No, there was a plausible plan to win, wasn't there, when the US came in?
Just to fight them.
And there were no nuclear weapons back then, Piers, as you know.
Okay, but you just think Putin would ever use them?
Do you not think he would?
No. Why would he? He's not an Islamic fundamentalist who wants to blow himself up.
Oh, that's a very racist thing to say.
This moment right here, this is the moment that reveals everything. When Piers Morgan says one is a democracy and an ally of the West, and one is not, Mehdi immediately catches it. Because what Piers just admitted is that the standard isn't actually about human rights or international law. It's about who you're allied with. So if you're an ally of the West, you get to end kids? That's the question Mehdi asks, and it's devastating, because Piers can't actually answer it. He tries to backtrack, but the damage is done. He revealed that his entire framework is based on political allegiance, not principle. And that's the exact double standard liberals have been pointing out for years. When Mehdi says I'm consistent, I don't care whether you're an ally or an enemy, I care about what you do. That's moral clarity. That's what actual human rights advocacy looks like. It's not about picking sides based on geopolitics. It's about applying the same standards to everyone. And when he points out that both conflicts involve occupation, both involve war crimes, both involve governments making genocidal statements, Piers has no response except to say they're totally different. But here's the thing. They are different in scale and context, but the principle is the same. If you condemn one occupying power for violating human rights, you have to condemn them all. You can't have a carve-out for your allies. That's not principle, that's just politics. And the way this segment ends, with Mehdi calling out the racist framing about who would use certain weapons, that's important too. Because so much of this conversation is wrapped in these assumptions about which populations are rational actors and which ones are just driven by fundamentalism. It's dehumanizing, and it shapes policy in really dangerous ways. What Mehdi did throughout this entire exchange was refuse to play by the rules of the game that let us ignore injustice when it's committed by people we're allied with. He forced Piers to either defend that double standard openly or admit it exists. And watching someone try to defend the indefensible in real time, that's why conversations like this matter. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.